Hello and welcome to this video. My name is Miriam and I really love books. But in today's video I'm going to do a very big unhaul. It's actually the biggest unhaul I've ever done because I've never unhauled any books. Well, maybe a few books, like 1 or 2 books at a time, but never before have I decided to get rid of over 80 books in one go. Actually, a while ago I realized that I'm spending quite a lot of money on books, and some of those books I do not even like. And quite a lot of those books I can borrow from the library, and I can read a ton of ebooks because of my Kobo Plus subscription. So why am I spending so much money on books that I'm not really a big fan of? And not very long ago I actually watched some videos on minimalism, and even though I'm not a minimalist, I am trying to get rid of books that do not make me happy. So I checked my bookshelves. There are so many books I'm sure I'm never going to read again because I absolutely hated them when I read them, or simply did not like. It's not all that I hate all these books, but I just didn't like them. There are actually some books on my shelves that I'm not a big fan of, but I received them as a gift, so I will keep those books. But all the other books that I do not feel connected to will be gone. I think it's over 80, but it might actually be 100 because I added books after I counted them. So, well, let's dive into the big unhaul. The stack on my right? Yeah, it's on my right, but for you it's probably left, I'm not sure. This stack is completely Dutch, and these 2 stacks, you can see only one I guess, is completely English, and there are actually a lot of classics because I do not really like classics, but I had to read them when I studied English language and culture, and I decided I'm going to get rid of those books. Let me start out with this one. Whoa! The Twilight Saga. All the 4 books in English. I've read these books once and then I loved them. I think 2 years ago I tried to do a reread and then I absolutely hated the first book, so I realized I'm never going to love these books. They were always tucked away because I did not want anyone to know that I owned the Twilight Saga. A huge stack of books by Rick Riordan. I absolutely loved the Percy Jackson series and the Heroes of Olympics, but after that his books are quite repetitive, so I decided to get rid of my copies of Magnus Chase and the Kane Chronicles. So that's 10 books already in just a few seconds. The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This was actually the first and only book, I guess, in 2021 that I DNF'd. Because of my challenge of reading 365 books, I rarely DNF books because I just want to keep on going. But after 100 pages, I still wasn't connected to this story. It was very sad because I really absolutely adored The Night Circus and hoped that this one would also be great, but it wasn't for me, I guess. These 2 books by Sarah J Maas, I do not really like them, and I was actually planning on saving up the entire series on my trips to the UK. I haven't been to the UK for a while and I haven't missed collecting these, and I can read these books for free in Kobo Plus, well, in Dutch, but so I really don't see why I should hold on to them because they're not that great. This was actually a book I bought because it was hyped up over Bookstagram and Goodreads and stuff like that. Frankly in Love by David Yoon, and I thought the story was dull and not at all interesting, and I really don't understand why people are so hyped about this book. But maybe you do have a different opinion, then let me know in a comment. But I won't change my mind, I think. I love the cover though, but to keep a book only because I love the cover is... no, I'm not going to do that. Same as for this book, Open Road Summer. As far as I know, this wasn't really hyped up, but I read it and it's a YA story and I thought it would be fun, but it was actually quite dark, even though it's a beautiful summery cover, and I just didn't like it. These 3 books by Sophie Kinsella. I love her books, I love some of her books, but actually quite a lot of these feel-good chick lit books are so over the top that I do not enjoy them. I kept some books by this author. I kept My Not So Perfect Life, The Undomestic Goddess and Surprise Me, but I had a complete collection, not a complete collection, but I had quite a big collection of Sophie Kinsella's books. Also in the Shopaholic series, most of them were Dutch, but I see there's the English version of Shopaholic and Baby. I am going to get rid of these books because they were such a disappointment for me. I always feel bad when I say that I did not like this book, but it's The Tattooist of Auschwitz. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. The story was okay. The writing style was terrible, and this book simply wasn't for me. I'm not even going to lift it, but this is a huge stack of classics. Actually, there's a lot of these books with this format. I don't know what the publisher was, but I remember that on my first trip to the UK as an au pair, I got a lot of these classics for £1 each. It's not really like I spend a lot of money on it. I'm very bad with the classics. I do not like them. There are a few classics that I do like, and I intend to make a video about that very soon. I don't think you have to read classics in order to be a good reader. Well, there's actually a soft cover of Emma by Jane Austen. It's a beautiful cover, but it is a bit damaged, unfortunately. But this book was so dragging, just like almost all the other books on this stack. The books that I did like, the classics that I did enjoy, are still on my shelf, so I'll keep them and make a video about that in the future. So that were the English books. And now for the Dutch books. There are actually a lot of translated books, not many Dutch original books. These are some Amish books by Beverly Lewis. There was a time when I was into these books, and I believe I got a pack of these books for well, it was a reduced price, so therefore I got it. There's actually another series of Amish books that's still on my bookshelves, and that's not because I really like those books, but because I inherited them from my grandfather, so I'm not going to give away those. My Heart and Other Black Holes. It was not that I really didn't enjoy this book, but I'm absolutely sure that I won't read this book again. Books about elves from Bernard Hennen. I believe these are originally German books. I did enjoy reading them, but the complete series is too elaborate to collect, and hopefully they can bring joy to someone else. Two books by Christine Schaub, I believe. This one is about John Newton and the story behind Amazing Grace, and this one is, I can't remember his name, Yates Spafford, the author of that song It Is Well With My Soul, and this is the story behind them. But the writing style of these books is terrible, so I did not really enjoy reading them. Now, and for a collection of biblical fiction that I did not really enjoy or absolutely hated, these are various books written by various people, but they all take place during biblical times. I still love biblical fiction, but these books are not good enough to be left on my shelves. A book by Jojo Moyes, I don't know how you say her name, The Bride Ship, I believe this one is, or The Ship of Brides is the original title. I do remember what the story was about, and I sort of liked it, but not enough to keep the book. This book is by Santa Montefiore. She's quite a famous author, I believe, but again, it's not that I thought this book was bad, but not good enough to keep. This is quite an old book, and I can't pronounce the name of the author, but I want to get rid of it because I actually read this book twice, and both times I wasn't really gripped by the story. It is very complicated, and maybe someone else will enjoy it. And this is a non-fiction book. The original title is Everything Happens for a Reason and Other Lies I Loved. It is quite a compelling story, but it did not really speak to me. I thought this book was about something else, and therefore I'm getting rid of it. This is actually the newest book on the stack that I am going to sell. It's the translated edition of Songbirds by Christy Leftery. I read it for a podcast that I make with a friend, and I thought this was going to be a very good book. I absolutely love The Beekeeper of Aleppo, but this book did not do the same thing for me, and maybe it did so for other people, because I've heard a lot of stories about people that absolutely love this book, but it wasn't for me. In the future I want to buy less books and also, well, only buy books that I really want to, and not because other people are telling great stories about all those books, but then I want to do some more research whether I will like a book, and if I buy a book that I do not like, then I will get rid of it immediately after reading the book. I think that's what I'm going to do in the future. So this might be my first and last book on haul if I'm going to do it like that. Another book, it's a very popular children's book in the Netherlands. I bought it because there were so many great stories about it. I remember I bought it second hand and I was really happy. And the first time I read it, I thought this is a very cute story, but I'm not going to reread this book. I'm absolutely sure of that, and therefore I'm finding a new home for this book, I guess. This is another series, and it's very heavy. This is a middle grade series, I believe, that has to do with Cornwall and mythology and some other things. I think people that like Percy Jackson and stuff like that will like these books. It's a Dutch translation of an Italian series. I enjoyed the series when I read the books, but I will definitely not read them again. This book, Cinderella, Happily Ever After, the second book in the Cinderella series. I borrowed the first book from the library and I absolutely loved that one, and then I saw this one. It was slightly damaged, so therefore I got a cheap edition of this book. And at first I was like, am I really going to get rid of a book that I paid hardly any money for? And yes, I am going to get rid of this book because I did not like it. I will not read it again, so why should I hold on to it? Some Dutch editions in the Shopaholic series that I will also get rid of. I already told you when I talked about Sophie Kinsella before that I'm not really into these books anymore. A Dutch edition of The Last Battle by C.S. Lewis. It's not because I do not like this book, but I got multiple editions of this one, and this is my least favorite edition in terms of illustrations and stuff. This is the first book in the Mrs. Peregrine's Children's series. I'm not sure whether I'm saying the name of the series right. I was influenced into buying this book by Jesse the Reader, one of my favorite booktubers, but even though he really liked it and he still likes it, I believe it's not for me. I've read the first book, and on one hand I do want to keep on reading the books just to see where it's going, but on the other hand I wasn't really grabbed by the story, so I'm getting rid of this copy as well. A book called Quarantine by a Dutch writer, a Dutch original book. It was written in April 2020, so at the beginning of the coronavirus, and this book is outdated already and not really good, so maybe someone else wants to have it. This is also a book that I'm not getting rid of because I hate it, but because I've got 2 copies. Next year I'll start a course to become a book editor, and one of the books in the book thing that I got was this book, Taal is zeg maar echt mijn ding, which is a Dutch expression I can't translate into English, but I got the book with the course, but I already had the book because it was gifted to me on a birthday, so I'm getting rid of the copy I got from the course. Hopefully that's allowed. I think it is allowed because I paid for the course, and obviously also for the books that come with it. The Dutch edition of The Miracle of Speedy Motors in the series by Alexander McCall Smith. I got a complete collection and I already had this book, but then I decided I had to get rid of this book because the other series that I got is a different format of books. So this is again not because I hate it, but because I have 2 editions. A Dutch edition of The Fellowship of the Ring. I have the complete English collection of Lord of the Rings, so I don't see why I should hold on to this one. Oh, here's actually another biblical fiction story. It's a Dutch original, and I remember this has a dual timeline. Second World War and the story of Esther or Hadassah in the Bible. I did not think this was a very good book, and therefore I'm getting rid of it. Here's another book in biblical fiction, but it's not actually biblical fiction. This is a book by Taylor Caldwell. I heard that it is very popular, but I've read better books about Luke, the author of one of the books in the New Testament. So, well. And last, and well, I was going to say but not least, but I don't know whether this is last but not least or something else. These are a few youth classic books that I received but did not enjoy. These are Dutch Christian books, and no, I don't like them. I've thought about getting rid of them for a long time. I've actually thought about it multiple times before and I've never done it, but now I am doing a big unhaul. I finally have the courage to put these away as well. So what am I going to do with these books? First, I will try to sell some of them on Instagram. Unfortunately, I will only ship in the Netherlands. So I will try to sell some of the books. If books don't sell, or some of them, I will give away to local little free libraries or secondhand bookshops or something like that. Will I buy new books from the money I gain from this? Probably not. I'm actually doing a big decluttering of my my bedroom and my office, because it's all on the same floor in my house, and I will try to sell as much stuff as possible and put that in a savings account. That sounds so boring, but there are some things that I'd like to do in the future, and money helps with that. So yeah, and it also doesn't really fit into my plan of buying less books. Maybe I will buy like 1 or 2 books that I really want to have and I already know I will love, but for the future I will try to buy less books. I'll tell you even more about that in a video in 2022, because it's actually one of my challenges for the new year. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, even though it was me telling I did not like a bunch of books. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more bookish content, then please consider subscribing to my channel. And as always, happy reading!